everyone, Ivy Lee Gaming here, and today we're playing Dragonheir Silent Gods. For today's video, I'm gonna go through and talk about the most underrated epics, who might be sliding under the radar as a very valuable hero. Dive deep, battle peek into Season 3 of Dragonheir Silent Gods. There's a ton of new heroes, damage types, and new elemental synergy. There's also going to be a ton of great events to come, including another D&D collab. Be sure to download via Android, iOS, Mac, PC, Steam, or Epic Games if you haven't already, and use the current working promo codes. Come and join us. Alrighty, so yeah, I'm continuing with the whole no-face videos because I'm still dealing with this Bell's palsy situation that's not really getting any better. So bear with me, guys. I'll try to show my face once I feel like I can speak a little clearer without holding my mouth weird. If you don't know, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can watch my video on initially what happened regarding this if this is the first time finding me. I normally do have myself properly on the camera for all my videos, but that'll come back as soon as I can. Alright, so let's get into today's topic, underrated epics. Like, there's a lot of amazing epics in this game. Some of them are pretty obvious, but some of them are ones that nobody talks about. Or maybe people say are meh, but they don't realize the value of. So I'm going to kind of go through and pick out some in each category, or at least each element, that I think maybe slide under the radar. So for this discussion, I'm going to be talking about all the heroes from Season 1, 2, and 3. After playing through all of Season 0, 1, and 2, I've played through multiple endgame bosses, Chaos Shadows, Otherworld exploration stuff, you know, all that fun stuff. And, well, we're starting to get into Season 3 here. We're already a couple weeks in, so we're starting to really get a feel for who's valuable. And there's some heroes that we broke out for the sake of stuff like the Chaos Shadows that really surprised us. And I kind of want to talk about those type of heroes today. Alright, so first up, I'm actually going to call out Horus. So Horus is our free login hero. A lot of times login heroes kind of get a bad rap. People just think they're bad just because they're free. I don't know why there's that like stereotype when it comes to these games, but people assume the free heroes kind of suck or a meh. But Horus, alright, he's not perfect. Like, his attack penalty is on his battle skill. You can time it. His ultimate is a taunt. But you know what? He has some great survivability. So here we have the passive. When taking damage, the hero has a 50% chance of obtaining a 10% max HP shield for 5 seconds. This effect only takes effect once every 7 seconds. But for 5 seconds, so there's only a couple seconds delay, right? Not so bad. And honestly, this can be such a lifesaver in so many situations, but he really is a good tank. Like, there's a lot of areas when you first start out playing where you just need survivability, you just need someone to take the heat. And he's very good for that. He survives well in harder content like Ancient Battlefield, for example. He's a good one to bring in because he doesn't bring in buffs if you turn off his ultimate. So if you turn off his ultimate and bring him into Ancient Battlefield, he doesn't put up any other buffs. Shields don't count as buffs. So he can be a great tank where some of the other tanks are bringing in other sorts of buffs and protection which you don't want in that content. He's a great tank for Grave of Venom. This passive here will really help keep him alive when you get those initial first wave of hits that are very difficult to deal with at first. He's going to be more tanky than some of our favorites like Furboth for that reason. Because he's very easy to build. And yeah, I think he's a pretty strong tank. You build him with some defense, but also a decent bit of HP. Secondary because of this passive. And he will surprise you at how long he lasts. So don't underestimate using Horus. And also, don't be afraid to book him. You're gonna need multiple tanks and content later in the game, and that's gonna come in handy. I mean, there's so many good heroes that are obvious, so I'm gonna skip the obvious. But I want to call out Ferrara. So if you're looking to do like a proper synergy depending on your season with fire and you need someone that does like Voresh's job, she kind of does that. What I mean by that is she has buff prohibition on her battle skill and she removes 2 buffs on her ultimate. So this can really come in handy versus bosses where you really want to prevent buffs, especially if you're trying to do like a 5-man synergy to get the most out of your team, the most damage, or take advantage of her damage as well if you don't need the extra healing from someone like Voresh. But she could be a great option in something like Ancient Battlefield to remove the buffs from that boss, and put up accuracy penalty doesn't hurt. And honestly, there's a lot of areas where you want to get rid of buffs. There's a lot in the game, especially early on. You're going to really start to notice how important buff removal or prevention is. I should mention in Season 3, it gets a little more difficult because buff prohibition does not help against the Ancient Battlefield as our example, because they cleanse debuffs first, but it doesn't mean it's still not valuable against other situations. And a lot of times in the Chaos Shadows or the Chief Challenges, those enemies have buffs. And if that happens to be the case for the one that you're dealing with and you need someone to strip the buffs or prevent them, she's a really great candidate, especially if fire is what you need to go with. So don't forget about Ferrara. She's a lot easier to use than Liko. Liko is more of a conditional buff prohibition hero, where Ferrara just does it, and she can put out a little bit of damage too, so another great hero. Now I want to call out for Wild Foley. I find her a lot better than Elfie when pairing with a wild team for another damage dealer. It sounds like Elfie's going to enable people well, but it just doesn't feel worth it. I always got more damage when I used Foley as one of my wild heroes. So this is like maybe if you have maybe you don't have Tunnel Nom, but you have Foley, for example. She could be a great substitute. She brings in a multi-attack on her ultimate here 3 times in a row. She has extra here as well for 7 seconds after casting. The number of orbs shot by the hero's basic attack is modified to 2. So she actually boosts her own basic attack. And yeah, a successful wild check by allies increases the damage of the hero's next basic attack by 60% and makes it wild. So other allies doing wild procs makes her even better. And she brings an aura of crit damage in all battles. She's awesome for Vortex if you're working on a budget team without maybe without a Flora. Or again, maybe you have Flora, Erich, and no Tanonon. Foley is a really good option. Very, very great wild hero, and definitely someone that should be used if you're looking to build a wild team and you have enough epic books. Luckily though, I mean, there's so many great wild heroes. You could even use the rares, but that's another discussion. But I do want to mention, when it comes to wild, Season 3 wild definitely is coming back into play, and Foley's a really good option because this battle skill, making her basic attacks be modified to 2 instead of just 1, actually helps because there's that new special gear set that makes basic attacks do more damage. So she's going to be even better in Season 3. Now we have some obviously Arachis for burn and Tanonon for wild. They're the strong. And Adolphus, Isolde for support. So we're going to kind of move on from that down to poison now. Everyone knows Furboth is great. Everyone knows Horus and Corrin are great poisoners, I would think. But I actually want to mention Cypherus. I feel like she's a confusing one to use because she's kind of like a self-sacrificing, hard to keep alive hero. She is a reviver, which is amazing. We all need revivers sometimes. Like, this is huge. This can be so clutch when you're trying to progress in content. She also puts defense up on all allies, which is amazing. It's 60% increased defense. So you can certainly use her in other content. She has the heal as well. It's a full, both of these are full board, all allies heals, but she consumes her own HP to do these 2 things. So that's where the hard part is for keeping her alive. I think I originally underrated her because I was frustrated by her because she was so hard to keep alive. But if you're in Season 1, there's that set that actually allows you to self-heal. So that set is perfect for her. The set that allows the wearer to heal when I think it's when they use skills or battle skill or ultimate. I don't remember which one. It's been a while. I'm on season 3 now. That's the hard part of the season stuff. But that self-heal set is perfect for her. But keep in mind, if you're going to use her in general and you don't have the self-heal set on her, she's going to keep losing health over time. So she's not good for long battles unless you have another very strong healer with her, or she's just going to kill herself, unfortunately. But that revive can really come in clutch in a lot of content, so don't underestimate trying to work her into your teams if you're struggling with survivability, even somewhere like Grave of Venom, where it's really hard to keep a tank or others alive in the final stages as you're starting to progress. All right, everyone knows Shelter is a dauntless king, and Yola is our queen of attack penalty and crowd control. Lydia is a great tank. All right, cool. Nimbus is probably one of the lesser rated, I would say, dauntless heroes. I would definitely call out him as a very strong hero to build if you're working on a dauntless team. He does a ton of attacks here. Everything is about boosting his attack speed as well. Extra attack speed. That's all about his kit. Is all about attack speed. And of course, attack in all battles with 30 is a great aura, in dungeons, is a great aura for content with a dauntless team. But yeah, he's gonna help enable other heroes that need someone else to be proccing a lot of attacks. This attack is considered a basic. So like heroes that have when an ally does a basic attack, blah, 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 he's gonna be a great hero to pair along with him. And when it comes to the Chaos Shadows in Season 2, he was like my only DPS in one of the teams, along with Yola as the support, and that team did really, really well against the Tall War boss. So definitely keep him in mind if you're looking for a strong Dauntless main DPS for something even just like a Chaos Shadow boss. Speaking of Chaos Shadow boss, there's some fun stuff you can do with that. But yeah, I'm gonna continue onward with our lightning with that in mind. Nathaniel's another obviously amazing hero, but Yudikato I don't think gets as much love. I really love this hero. I actually have a full guide on her. She has a defense in all battles aura. She brings shield. When an ally casts an ultimate, she grants them a shield. Removes shields from enemies and dispels a buff. And then gives shields to allies. And heals. Like, she's a very good support that I don't think is talked about enough for the sake of, whatchamacallit? I don't even know, everything. She can be great for Grave of Curse or the Frost domain where you want to get rid of the shields, right? Coming back to this battle skill a lot is great. You can't time it, but that's okay. But also having shields on your allies when the Grave of Curse boss does the ultimate and defense up, that's going to make the boss do less damage, which means the shield that they put on themselves is going to be smaller. And if they do put up a shield, she can remove it. She's honestly a really, really great hero for Grave of Curse. I also used her heavily in the Chief Challenges and Chaos Shadows again versus the Tall War boss in Season 2 for, yeah, for those special fights. She was really, really great support for that. All right, on to the Radiant heroes. The epics I would say are underrated is actually Hegio. I don't think people realize how much damage he does. He's a very good damage dealer. Very good damage dealer. Increases damage by 50% when he consumes Rally, which makes this a lot of a better of an attack that is AoE. He also can be cheesed in some content where you have him jump behind the boss, where he doesn't take any hits. And I'm talking again the Chaos Shadow Season 2 type stuff. I think in Season 1 as well. Those Chief Challenges, Chaos Shadows, you can kind of cheese it and make him not actually get attacked. That's a fun strategy. I'm sure there's some videos out there on that. I'm not going to go into that too deep right now. But he is also a great enabler. So he launches attacks, recharges ultimate energy, so he's going to come to his ultimate often. And he also can grant himself Rally, which is great. But his passive, 50% chance of granting Rally for 10 seconds to a random ally after casting his ultimate. And he goes to his ultimate so often, he's constantly using his passive. So he's a really great enabler. So if you're working on a rally team, and maybe you have Filto or some of the other top tier DPS, but you don't have Alton or you don't have Laurenthiel, Hegio can definitely be an enabler that you use as well. All right, and I have to talk about Clovis. Clovis really came to light in Season 2 for me as someone that was necessary to build very early on. And I used him through, I used him in Vortex. I used him in Chief Challenges and Chaos Shadows, Otherworld Exploration. Used him in the endgame boss. Like, he's very good because of what the game gives us. Attack penalty on an ultimate is a hard thing to find. And this was huge. Being able to time this attack penalty alone was just amazing, honestly. And then he does gain defense up, so he survives pretty well with his battle skill. And then this persistence also makes him gain defense up. So, like, you can make him be the target of your, like, Call of Lightning and Vortex, and time his battle skill for the attack penalty to go when you want it to go. Do you want it to cover the 3 attacks before the ultimate? Do you want it to cover the ultimate plus 1 or 2 other attacks? You can kind of time it however you need to for your roster, depending on what you're doing. And yeah, being able to time this is great. But also, reducing ultimate energy against those Chief Challenge bosses is really helpful as well for the ones that allow that. And he does have a defense in all battles aura. So he's a great tank that I never used in Season 0 or Season 1. But in Season 2, I found him necessary. So definitely keep your eyes out for Clovis, guys. The synergies there are very, very good in Season 2, but they really lack attack penalty. So it kind of, you know, with the Ice Blast, if you don't have an amazing legendary that has attack penalty on the ultimate like Rose, then you're kind of going to need someone like Clovis. Nessa is going to be amazing to talk about as well because she brings a lot. Later in, I'd say Season 2, she kind of comes to light. You probably won't use her in Season 1, but Season 2, she brings attack penalty on her battle skill, which again, always great. But she also brings blind, which is really helpful to do against the boss in the end game. And honestly, like a healing prohibition hero, you might use her a little bit versus the Pillar of Trial main boss as well. She cannot keep up healing prohibition the whole time though. Just don't expect her to be that good. So if you use her and you're a little bit disappointed, just keep in mind it's not 100% uptime for sure, because the boss does that on multiple skills, but she can be someone that helps deal with that. She also reduces ultimate energy of the boss, of enemies, and that is really helpful against the Chief Challenge bosses as well. So I think she's kind of a very valuable hero. I used her a lot in the Otherworld Exploration. I used her against the Mechatork as well, because Mechatork, again, Season 2, melee DPS heroes are actually very strong because they can't get crowd controlled. So she can help to place attack penalty, at least on the boss. And she's not going to take the stun or what that comes from the boss because she's melee and the melee don't get stunned. So a really good hero that comes to light in Season 2 that I can tell we're going to need to use in Season 3 as well. Alright, we already know Theoine is kind of the MVP of Aura for epics, and Catherine is a top tier epic as well for support in Radiance, but I don't think people give Goom Gum, as I call him, enough love. He's very good for his abilities here. We have an ultimate that's an AoE with a stun that hits 3 times, a great candidate for Witch's Remains or Crown of Unclean. He has a battle skill with an AoE as well, and blind and attack penalty. This battle skill and this ultimate help him to be awesome versus the Mechatork in Season 2, the endgame boss. It helps him be great against the Chief Challenges. It also helps him be great against Pillar of Trial or the Meander Waves. Like, he's really good for control. Like, he does stun here. And I even put him in a stun set on top of that. and he really helped me to push through some content that I was stuck with when it came to Fae Meander. I actually have a video on it talking about Goom Gum being an MVP of a certain stage of Fae. And then I just kept him in the team afterward because he was so helpful. And he puts out solid damage. It's not crazy, but 3 attacks times to 30%. I mean, that's solid. It's fine. It's a great attack here. And his battle skill is solid with 320 as well, with the attack penalty and blind. So he's a lot more versatile. And dispelling a random debuff from an ally is just a little bonus on top of it. Oh, and resistance by 40 in all battles can definitely be helpful if you're doing some of those Fae Meander waves where you want to resist maybe the Lady of Greeneries or the other boss's debuffs. So I think it's cool that you get him from Fae, and he's totally an MVP of Fae. So really great hero. All right, let's go on to Ice. So our Ice heroes, I'm going to call out Vidimir. He became a top tier DPS at the end of season 2. I mean, top tier. He can pump out insane damage with this explosion here. And there's some really cool strategies using him very well versus the Mecha Torque. And that's the main thing I'm going to say. He was a Mecha Torque boss. But if you end up building him beforehand for Arena or for the other Chaos Shadows or Chief Challenges, he's going to be fine as a Frost hero. But this explosion being timed after some really creative gameplay. I loved the stuff I saw with Vidimir, and I did it too. I really think he's insane for the endgame Mecha Torque boss season 2. So really cool that he came to have more value after probably being ignored most of season 1 as well. Really, really top tier damage. All right, and speaking of damage, we know Garthen is our queen of epics. Bloodin is not too far behind her for Ice Blast, but Sadiq deserves some love as well. He actually has an AoE for his Ice Blast with his ultimate, and this came in handy versus some teams again in Mecha Torque. When you want to attack all the balls at the end, this ultimate can do that. So he was great as a main DPS with a team trying to find some synergy with Ice Blast, where most of the other Ice Blast heroes are all single target. So at the very least, this provides some AoE that can really help ramp up your damage. He ignores defense here with his passive. And yeah, don't underestimate building Sadiq if you're looking for another DPS for Mecha Torque. If you're trying to have some good synergy with Ice and, what was it, Radiance last season? Season 2? We all know Voresh is great. Rava's a great budget Frost as well. But let's move on. Actually, no. Let's stay here. Pargu. One more Ice. Pargu used to be super OP in Season 0, and he got to get fixed because he was actually broken. Oops. But they fixed him. But he has all these random debuffs. So most of the time, you're not going to use Pargu. Because we don't want random. We want to know what we're getting. We want attack penalty if we want attack penalty. And then Frozen is meh, it's okay, but at least decent damage with this battle skill, to be fair. And the passive, again, okay. But this ultimate actually is an MVP of, again, the Mecha Torque boss fights in season 2 for the end game, Otherworld Exploration, final stages, because every debuff you put up on the boss, it counts them. And that actually helps a lot in the battle. Like, every different debuff counts once you place it one time. It adds another stack. I can't remember what the stack was called right now. I apologize, but part of the mechanics of the endgame boss in Season 2 is to put as many different debuffs on the boss as you can. And he brings 5 debuffs on his own, which that alone can be huge value. Plus he hits 3 times, so you could always give him something like the Crown of Unclean, just to help put defense penalty on the boss as a little extra damage. Or yeah, he can be a utility hero that you throw in a Mona Lisa set to help heal more heroes. Like, he can kind of be the extra guy that's just there to help. He could have accuracy, he could take some heat off the heroes, he could be, hell, you could even make him tanky, super tanky, and put ancestral protection on him with accuracy. Like, there's so many ways you could build Pargu to help in a endgame boss fight versus the Mechatork, depending on what you need for your team. I just think he's a really big MVP that came out, and you'll probably end up building him if you're working on your final teams of Season 2. Alright, last but not least, we are on to Necro, and oh, there's so many good Necro. We know Questa is a little assassin beast. Kirza is amazing that we get for free from the season content in whatchamacallit in Season 2. Tatoth I'm gonna call out as our Shadow Epic DPS, although I'm just gonna mention him briefly. He is a pretty solid DPS, but I feel like Shadow is another one of those that is not amazing unless you have the exclusive. But if you're looking to build a Shadow team, he can be your main DPS as the for a Shadow team, and have other people enable him. So keep that in mind if you want to try to build a Shadow team for something like Chaos Shadows, Chief Challenges and all that, especially coming up. He would be the guy. Also, Taldi. I'm going to call out Taldi because I feel like he got some hate in the beginning. So for Shadow, I feel like people are like, oh, he's like the worst Shadow guy, the guy that fake Voresh. But he's actually one of the best enablers. And he hits 3 times with his ultimate here and grants Shadow Energy. And he obviously grants more here as well. And he gains, let's see. When the hero has enough Shadow Energy, they can cast their ultimate skill. So, like, he keeps coming back to his ultimate frequently. And honestly, he is kind of a permanent, like, defense penalty, witches remains, kind of unclean guy. Like, he can keep up the defense penalty almost permanently in a team where, you know, if you have your Ozul and Taldi, and then maybe you have a Spalta. Like, he's a really great hero. So I did want to call out him as one of the Season 3 underrated heroes that I don't think people realized how good he was at first. We all know Zarloth is amazing, and I think I'm just going to final call out Gladros. Gladros brings really big shields. When you build him with attack focus, his shields are massive, kind of like how, I don't know, I mean, there's a lot of these attack-based heroes that are really fun to build that can bring some damage along with some support, like Cinderelle now, or Zarloth, Voresh. They heal with their attack. He puts up shields with his attack, plus max HP as well. But these shields really can be huge. He's so much better as a shielder than some of the others that he might surprise you. Build him with full attack, and then anyone under a shield is debuff immunity during the shield duration. So you can use him as your debuff immunity hero in something like a Vortex if you need it. Especially in Season 3, where there's very limited options for this synergy for that sort of protection with Lightning and Necrotic. It's a very hard synergy to build with support unless you have the amazing legendaries. He's going to be huge. He was just also huge for Season 1. We really started using him heavily in Chief Challenges and Chaos Shadows, and then again for the endgame boss. And I definitely used him in Season 2 as well. And I'm sure I'm going to use him in Season 3. So he is another very strong hero. Amazing support. He also steals attack. So he's kind of got like a attack penalty, decrease attack type thing going on indirectly. Super strong hero and probably a bit underrated. But alright guys, I hope you liked this list and this discussion. Maybe to help you bring some heroes out of the woodwork, and let me know who your favorites are that I did not talk about. Who are some of your favorites that you think you don't really see people playing, but maybe they deserve some love? Let me know in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video. And if you haven't already, be sure to download Dragonheir Silent Gods now using the link in the description or the pinned comment. It's available on Android, iOS, Mac, PC, Steam, and Epic Games.